turn it over to the Urban Renewal Agency, and we'll give Joe enough time to run out of here.
Yeah, the lawyer's abandoning ship
Yeah.
here.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Brian. Thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Walt.
Alrighty, Canby, welcome to the Canby Urban Renewal Agency special meeting of February 18th, 2015. If it's the pleasure of the agency, I'd like to continue on with the opening ceremonies we've already done.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. First opportunity for citizen input. We're down to Bob tonight. Alrighty. Any more community announcements, Kim?
Nope.
Nothing? Rick? Okay. Next up, we have the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, which include the minutes of the February 4th, 2015 Urban Renewal District Agency Special Meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Hodson and seconded by Commissioner Hensley to approve the consent agenda, which is the minutes from the February 4th, 2015 Urban Renewal District Agency Special Meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 7-0. Next up, we have resolutions and ordinances. Couple great milestones tonight. Been looking forward to this date for quite a while. Kim, you want to introduce?
Yeah, the first item we have is URR 15-002. This is authorizing a personal services agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Scott Edwards Architecture to provide architectural and design services for construction of the new library/civic building.
All right.
I am excited to be bringing this milestone to you. I would say this is my giddy look.
This is as giddy as Rick gets. Okay.
This is a request to approve a personal services agreement with Scott Edwards Architecture LLP for architectural services for the Canby Library and Civic Center. The contract price is $499,000, of which $14,000 is for reimbursables, so the services portion is $485,000. Contract includes research, community outreach, which includes 5 community meetings, schematic design, design development, construction documents, permits, and construction administration through the course of the contract. As I'd indicated, some of the features of the agreement are 5 community outreach meetings, 2 phases of construction requiring 2 guaranteed maximum prices. This is really important to us as we stage the construction because it will allow us to get in the ground with site prep utilities and foundation work as the balance of the project is being designed for construction. So we, in fact, are hoping that by the end of the summer or very, very early fall, we'll be breaking ground on the early phase of construction. The second GMP will be for construction of the facility itself. The mechanical, electrical, and plumbing will be a bidder designed through CMGC and subs rather than a component of the architectural agreement. This saved us money, and after conversations with our technical experts on council, seemed like a very good way to move forward with the project. The contract does have some exclusions, which I need to note to you. And before I note them, I will tell you that we already have them underway and that we see no obstacles or stumbling blocks in any of these exclusions. A site survey, environmental and geotechnical work on the site, any off-site improvements that are required, which would include any street repair work that needs to be done and other off-site improvements, public utility relocation, the street vacation process, traffic studies. LEED certification is excluded in this project. It was a function and feature we simply couldn't afford. Furniture, shelving, and equipment, the FFE portion, the bidding and purchase is excluded. Frankly, we're not anticipating we'll have money in our budget for the actual purchase, so they'll work on preliminary design and recommendations, and then we'll pursue the bidding of FFE as we proceed to staff and bring the facility up. HVAC commissioning, the design of the HVAC, of course, is under a separate design bid aspect, as I'd already indicated. Commissioning is a separate feature. We've excluded it from pricing. That basically is testing and sort of doing a value added analysis to determine that the system is balanced appropriately. In our facility, not as critical. We probably will contract at some point in time to have the work done, but we'll do it in a slightly different way. The cost for that was $34,000 if we had the architect commission, the HVAC commissioning included in the architectural services. Basically, it's a process that tells you that your system is running at an optimal level. Then cost estimating during the construction document phase is also excluded, and that was by intent. We'll have the general contractor on board at that time. We'll have our construction manager, who also is competent cost estimator, on board. We have cost estimating up until that point built into our architectural agreement, so we know that when we are negotiating the final guaranteed maximum price, that's really where the rubber's going to meet the road, and we don't need an estimator to tell us what that's going to be, unless we encounter a problem with the general contractor, in which case we will contract separately for an estimator to come in to be our point of focus in negotiations with the general contractor. We hope it doesn't come to that. That's the benefit and the point of CMGC, is that you don't reach that point in the design and construction process. It's a good agreement. We're excited about working with Scott Edwards Architecture. They are doing the CMGC process in Oregon City with their library project, and we're very responsive when we negotiated the terms of this agreement. I was real pleased. We started a little bit apart, but we were able to come together to an agreement.
Great.
Yeah, I want to comment to the agency that this is a marvelous example of Rick's incredible negotiating skills.
I wanted to say the same thing.
From where we were to where we are
Yep.
now, just marvelous, Rick.
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Todd, you want to comment on?
What we got is substantial for the price. And Rick did a really good job of negotiating that work. I mean, we've got almost everything we need. I was going to comment on the commissioning. That's typically done in a lead environment. The HVAC design build will have a balancing report that's given to us, so we'll have the balancing done. That's part of the design build. But, I mean, Rick did a fabulous job on the negotiation. And I know you want to admit it, but got hard line we needed to, and then soft we needed to. So I just think it was just a great job. I was pretty impressive.
I don't know the technical stuff like you guys do, but I'm just glad we've got somebody for whom this isn't their first rodeo.
And I would add that you have two somebodies who this isn't their first rodeo, because this was a partnership with Amanda Zeiber, and we make a formidable team, and Melissa, who's in the audience as well, and Councilor Rocha and Councilor Dale, both of whom participated in the selection process through this. So, I mean, we're marshaling this process through, and I just looked at my schedule and had to update from February 4th to February 18th, the selection of the architects. So we're off a couple of weeks, but still feel really good about our timeline and the success that we've experienced so far.
Great, Rick.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Ready for a motion?
That's right.
Go ahead.
Make the motion to approve resolution number URR 15-002, a resolution authorizing a personal services agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Scott Edwards Architecture LLP to provide a architectural and design services for the construction of the new library/civic building.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Hodson, seconded by Commissioner Hensley, to approve resolution number URR 15-002, a resolution authorizing a personal services agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Scott Edwards Architecture LLP to provide architectural and design services for the construction of the new library civic building. Any further discussion?
I would add just one thing, if I may. One piece of an outcome in the negotiation was that we were able to add back in the signage and wayfinding in the architectural agreements, which was about a $25,000 cost, or $24,000, $25,000. But I'm so excited to be able to bring our downtown arts committee together with our architects to begin working on the signage and wayfinding.
Very nice.
They have a budget and we have a project, and we put us together and create something magical for the front of this building. It's just, to me, seems like a perfect partnership, and I was, that's one piece that I'm just really, really excited to see come together. We've already talked very briefly to the Arts Committee about the possibility of this partnership, and I believe they're pretty excited about it, too.
Excellent.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Very good.
Great.
Are you ready for the vote?
Ready?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you so much, Rick, Amanda, Melissa. Wow. Great work. That is a great, great milestone. And for our next milestone, Kim.
The next item we have is URR 15-003. This is approving a minor amendment to the Canby Urban Renewal Plan to identify an additional property to be acquired and approving a purchase and sale agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Cutsforth Properties LLC to purchase property for the new library/civic building project.
Very good.
Yes. This is just a little complex, so I'm going to walk through it, and I will tell you going in, my strong recommendation is that you approve this at the end of the discussion, because it has both the advantage of a lower cost and the advantage of greater flexibility. We had already purchased tax lots 31 and 4600, which is what we currently own and what we're identified in the map. And we've had kind of ongoing discussions about the value of adding tax lot 4700, which is a 50 by 115 foot lot immediately adjacent and connected to the two lots that we had already purchased. And one of the larger stumbling blocks in looking at that acquisition is we didn't have $200,000 to spend on it, even though it seemed to make a lot of sense. So we kind of expanded our thought process, and I spoke with Ken Andrews, our construction manager, who also provided the initial estimate, and asked him what would our construction costs estimate look like if we abandoned the idea of constructing a basement and instead expanded the footprint at grade. And he came back with an analysis that indicated that we would save at a minimum about $10,000, and the number could go up quite a bit more after acquiring the land. And so that by itself didn't seem like a lot of money, but then we started looking at the impact to the project of relocating our sewer lines. And the sewer line runs down the North Juniper, the street we just vacated. Right now, and we knew that we had to relocate it. We had three options for relocating that sewer line. One is that we could have probably, if we abandoned the basement, we could probably have covered it over with concrete and protected it, and then built on top of it. The disadvantage with that, of course, is whenever anything goes wrong, you will be in an impossible situation because your sewer line is under the building and you don't have an alternative access now. The second was to move the sewer line just a little bit east and run it between the cinema and where the new building is going to go. And that had a cost associated with it too, and that cost was about $67,500. And then the third option was to relocate it, and these are engineers' estimates, these aren't ones we made up. They're ones the engineer made up.
Did you hear that? Yeah, okay.
Engineers make stuff up.
The third option was to relocate the sewer line east of the theater. And that had the highest price tag of $106,250. So taking into consideration the various options that were available to us, I put together kind of a spreadsheet analysis of the impacts and the benefits and the options and the alternatives. And what I came down to was first the elimination of option one, which is leave the sewer line under the building. It just didn't make common sense to do that. And so looking at option two, which is to relocate the sewer line between the new building and the cinema, required a little bit more space than we currently had. And option three, of course, cost a lot more money. But, so I took those options and said, well, if we are going to expand the footprint at grade, that leaves us additional space because you still have to have a 7.5% green space, so it gives you more space to work with. We can afford that if we lose the basement. If we don't lose the basement, then option two isn't really an option for us, so we have to, because we don't have enough space, since we can't afford to acquire the additional parcel. So what we in fact have to do is evaluate option three under the premise that we're going to spend $106,000 for the utility relocation, but not spend the other money. So the cost was the cost. So there's a $106,000 cost if we keep the basement, keep the project as it is, don't acquire the land, or there's a $57,000 cost if we abandon the basement, expand the footprint by about 2,400 square feet, and move the sewer line between the theater and the proposed site for the new building. Well, that's a net difference of about $50,000. My spreadsheet says $55,000. The number was between 50 and 70, and I opted for the low range because the savings on mobilization and profit for the contractor I listed as 35, and it's actually between 35 and 45 a month, and it could go out for 2 to 3 months depending on how long the basement, other factors in doing the basement itself. So I went the most conservative route. But what it means is that you're comparing a cost of $57,500 against a cost of $106,250, because there's going to be a cost no matter what we do. So the differential of $50,000 of savings, of reduced costs, so translated to savings. Looking at that $50,000, one of the other questions that has been kind of troubling all of us is the tax implications to the city of taking that 50 by 115 foot lot off of the tax rolls. So I looked at that, and using the city's tax increment to do the calculation, I determined that it would take about 70 years to recapture the $50,000 if the lot were to remain vacant. And then I took it to the next level and said, okay, we have a $50,000 savings if we expand the footprint at grade and eliminate the basement and put the utility between the two buildings. What if we added improvements at $150 a square foot and maximize the space, which is 92.5% of the 50 by 115, I mean, taking it to its greatest use? Well, it would still take 17 years to recover that cost, and which is a really strong argument, economic argument for moving forward. And that's only if the project was constructed next week And that doesn't take into consideration the impact associated with not actually collecting that money as long as the Urban Renewal Agency exists in the city coffers. And I'm only looking at the city increment. I wasn't really concerned too much about whether the county would lose money or not. I was just looking at whether we could pay our bills. And so what I found was that there's an economic reason to do it. There's a programming reason to do it because it gives us an opportunity to create a really neat space for library programming, perhaps address the access question that was asked earlier today, which we can explore more during the design phase, and end up with a pretty strong program at grade, stronger than it would otherwise have been, and the space would be more usable for everybody because it's all one piece and you don't have to go up and down, or actually in this case it would be down to access storage or future expansion if that's what ultimately happened. So it was kind of a best of all worlds scenario. If we acquire the additional lot and take advantage of the savings associated with relocating that sewer line between the two buildings rather than having to go all the way around.
You enjoyed that math project, I think.
It was an interesting one to walk through.
No, you did a great job.
Well, Rick,
Good
I have
job.
to thank you for that. This is the piece that you heard of the concerns and you took the initiative to come to us with this information in hand, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, for our audience, I'd like to let you know that Rick had a formidable hill to climb. I think it's safe to say that the majority of the council was either ideologically or philosophically or emotionally or economically opposed to an additional property purchase. And Rick was able to bring a very, very persuasive case to demonstrate that by this purchase, it is going to wind up not only with an economic winner, but a much better project for Canby. So thank you, Rick.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, to parse out your words about people having different points of view, I wanted that property, but I didn't want to spend $200,000 of funds that I wanted to put into the library building on a piece of land. Also, the record needs to show that Library Chair Roger Reif and others, library supporters, have encouraged us to pick up that extra lot to get more property. But I had come to an economic realization that the money needed to be spent on the building. And Rick did the impossible. He squeezed blood out of a turnip, so good job.
Very good. Any other discussion or questions?
Nope, glad we're doing it.
All right, I need a motion.
I'll do it.
Good job.
I move to adopt resolution number URR 15-003, a resolution approving a minor amendment to the Canby Urban Renewal Plan to identify an additional property to be acquired and approving a purchase and sale agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Cutsforth's Property, LLC, to purchase property for the new library civic building project.
I'll second.
Whichever.
Mayor gives it to
Councilor Coleman, Commissioner Coleman.
And I also do need to acknowledge, again, Amanda Ziver for the work she did negotiating this agreement with Cutsforth Property. She was the lead on concluding the negotiations and putting together the purchase and sale agreement.
She was indeed, and very patiently
Thanks,
so.
Amanda.
As she had to live through a council going, no way, to tonight's. Thank you, Amanda. Very big win. Appreciate it. Very good for Canby. It has been moved by Commissioner Height, seconded by Commissioner Coleman, to approve URR 15-003, approving a minor amendment to the Canby Urban Renewal Plan to identify an additional property to be acquired and approving a purchase and sale agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Cutsforth Properties LLC to purchase property for the new library and civic building project. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it carries 7-0. A big night, agency. Thank you, staff, so very, very much. That leaves us just what, Rick, two major decision points left, the CMGC discussion and decision, and then the hiring of a contractor.
Which is going to be fun.
Just go, Todd says will be fun.
Wow.
I can't-
So great progress on this project. My thanks to all. It's really a banner night. This is as giddy as Rick and I get, so you're seeing it now. Very much. Do we have any further business, Mr. Director? All righty, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So seconded.
It's been moved by Commissioner Hensley and so seconded by Vice Chairman Hodson that we adjourn. It is not debatable. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? And it carries 7-0. Good night, Canby.
Great job.